My sister's kids shouted their favorite meals, and everyone laughed while planning the order. But when my kids tried to speak, the room went quiet, and someone actually whispered, "They don't need to eat like us. They're used to cheap food." My face burned, but I stayed silent. No one noticed my daughter lowering her head, her tiny fingers clutching the hem of her shirt. That was the moment I realized my family didn't just see me as less, they wanted my children to feel it too. Before I continue, make sure to like this story, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this twist. Because trust me, you won't believe what happens next. I sat there watching as the waiter jotted down everyone's fancy orders. Steaks, sushi, even lobster tails for the kids who were still laughing. When it came to me, my sister smirked. "Don't worry, Evelyn, we know your budget. We'll just add a few burgers for your kids." The table erupted in chuckles. My own father shook his head and muttered, "She should have married smarter." My son looked up at me with eyes full of confusion. He didn't understand why his cousins could choose anything, but he couldn't. I clenched my fists under the table, forcing myself not to react. They thought I was powerless, cornered, too broke to stand up. But what they didn't know was that while they mocked me, I was holding something that could change the entire dinner and their future in ways they couldn't even imagine. And as I quietly reached into my bag, I decided tonight was the night they'd find out exactly who they were laughing at. I pulled out my phone slowly, almost like it was nothing, but inside my chest, my heart pounded. My sister leaned closer to her husband and whispered something that made them both laugh. "Maybe Evelyn's finally going to call the dollar menu," she said loud enough for the whole table to hear. Everyone chuckled again, their laughter stabbing me deeper than knives. My daughter's little hand brushed mine under the table, and I knew this wasn't about me anymore. This was about showing my kids that their mother wasn't someone to be mocked. The waiter stood waiting, pen in hand. My father sighed impatiently. "Well, Evelyn, just pick something cheap. We don't have all day." My jaw tightened, and instead of answering, I opened my banking app, slid it across the table, and let the screen glow in front of them. Silence dropped like a stone. Rows of numbers lit up the screen, more zeros than any of them had seen in their lives. My brother squinted, his smirk fading. "What is this? Some screenshot from Google?" I smiled, calm but sharp. "No, that's my account balance. From the company I've been building while you all laughed at me." My sister blinked rapidly, her fork clattering to the table. "You, a company? You can barely manage—" She stopped mid-sentence when she realized her words didn't match the truth glowing on the screen. My father frowned, anger and disbelief flashing in his eyes. "If this is real, why hide it? Why pretend to struggle?" The question cut through the tension, and everyone turned toward me. My voice came out steady, stronger than I felt inside. "Because I wanted to see who respected me for who I am, not for what I have." "Clearly I have my answer," the waiter, now awkwardly shifting from foot to foot, asked. "So, should I take your order?" I leaned back in my chair, my hand still resting on my son's. "Yes, but this time, let my kids order anything they want. Tonight's meal is on me." Gasps filled the table, and for the first time, their laughter vanished. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. What they didn't know yet was how I built everything they thought I'd never achieve, and how much power I truly held over their futures. Because tonight, the dinner wasn't just about food. It was about a reckoning. The waiter began writing down my kids' orders: steak, pasta, even the fancy desserts their cousins had demanded earlier. My daughter's face lit up, and my son's grin stretched wide for the first time that night. But across the table, my sister's expression twisted. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "You can't just flaunt money and think it changes who you are." Her husband nodded, his voice dripping with jealousy. "Yeah, Evelyn, everyone knows you've always been the struggling one. Don't act like some overnight success." I leaned forward, my eyes locking on them. "Overnight? Try years of working while you mocked me, while you threw parties without inviting me, while you made jokes about my kids' clothes. Every late night, every silent tear, every 'you'll never make it.' It all built what you're looking at right now." My voice trembled, Not with fear, but with power. My brother scoffed, forcing a laugh. So what? You're suddenly rich and we're supposed to clap for you? Money doesn't make you important? His wife smirked, adding, Exactly. We've always been the successful ones. But I saw it, the flicker of panic in their eyes. Because they knew what I knew. Their so-called success was crumbling. Their businesses were drowning in debt, their houses barely paid for. I had the receipts, literally. I unlocked my phone again, sliding a file across the table this time. Do you remember when you tried to block me from getting that loan? When you told the bank I wasn't trustworthy? My brother froze, his face turning pale. My sister shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I continued, my voice low but sharp. That betrayal almost crushed me. But instead, I found another way. And not only did I get funding, I bought out the very company you brag about at every family dinner. Gasps erupted around the table. My father's jaw dropped. You own it? He stammered. My sister's fork slipped from her hand and clattered against her plate. That's not possible, she muttered, but the fear in her voice betrayed her. I sat back, letting the silence choke them. My kids looked at me with wide eyes, realizing their mother wasn't just surviving, she was winning. But this was only the surface. Because beneath all their mocking and betrayal, there was a secret they didn't know. A secret tied to why I was really at this dinner. And as I lifted my glass, I smiled. Don't worry. I haven't even told you the real reason I came tonight. I raised my glass slowly, letting the suspense hang in the air. Every pair of eyes at the table was glued to me. My sister finally broke the silence with a scoff. The real reason you came tonight? Don't be dramatic, Evelyn. You just wanted free food, as always. She forced a laugh, but her voice cracked, betraying her nerves. I leaned forward, my tone calm but cutting. No, I came tonight because while you were busy mocking me, you didn't notice the papers I signed this morning. I pulled a crisp envelope from my bag and placed it on the table. My brother grabbed it before anyone else could. As his eyes darted across the first page, his smirk vanished, replaced by shock. No, this can't be real, he stammered. My father snatched the papers from his hands, adjusting his glasses. His face went pale. The room fell silent. Finally, my father's trembling voice broke it. You own the building we're sitting in right now? My kids looked at me in awe. My sister's jaw literally dropped. Her husband muttered under his breath, That's impossible! But it wasn't. I smiled. Not only this restaurant, but 3 others on this very street. And the best part? I paused, watching their faces tighten. One of them is where you're planning your anniversary party next month. Which means you'll be paying me. The color drained from my sister's face. She sputtered, You wouldn't dare! I cut her off sharply. Dare? I already did. While you laughed at me, I worked. While you whispered behind my back, I invested. And while you were busy pretending to be better than me, I built a future where you'll have no choice but to come through me. The table was silent except for the sound of my daughter giggling, whispering to her brother. Mom's a boss. My father tried to regain control, his voice stern. Money doesn't erase your place in this family. Don't think you can walk in here and humiliate us. I leaned back, my voice steady and cold. I didn't come here to humiliate you. You did that yourselves years ago. I just came to finally stop pretending. And as the plates of food arrived, stacked high with everything my kids had asked for, I knew this dinner wasn't just a meal. It was the beginning of their reckoning. Because I hadn't revealed everything yet, there was one final truth they didn't know, the one that would flip the entire table upside down. The plates clattered onto the table, steak sizzling, pasta steaming, dessert sparkling with syrup. My kids dug in happily, their laughter filling the space that once belonged to my family's mockery. But the others barely touched their food. They were too busy glaring at me, their pride cracking under the weight of the truth. My sister finally slammed her glass down. Fine, Evelyn. You've got money, businesses, buildings, but don't think for 1 second that makes you better than us. You'll always be the outsider, the one who never fit in. Her words were meant to cut deep, but they bounced off me. I had carried their insults for years. Tonight, I was bulletproof. I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp as glass. You keep calling me an outsider. But let me remind you of something. Outsiders build their own tables when they're denied a seat. And right now, you're sitting at mine. The room went dead quiet. Then I pulled out one last envelope, sliding it across the table with deliberate slowness. My father snatched it, his face already tense. As he unfolded the papers, his hands began to shake. His lips parted, but no words came out. My brother finally grabbed it from him, scanning the pages, his eyes widening in horror. It was the deed. Not just to the restaurant. Not just to a few shops on the street. But to their childhood home, the family estate they always flaunted as their greatest pride. My voice was steady when I spoke. Yes, I own it now. The house you grew up in. The one you brag about at reunions. The one you said I'd never step foot in again. It's mine. The shock rippled across the table like a tidal wave. My sister's hand shot to her mouth. My brother dropped the papers onto the floor. My father leaned back, speechless, his pride shattered. I stood up, placing my napkin gently on the table. You spent years laughing at me, treating my children like they were less, acting like I'd never amount to anything. But tonight you finally see the truth. You built your lives on pride, and I built mine on work. Now you'll live in my shadow. I kissed my daughter's forehead, ruffled my son's hair, and turned to leave. Behind me, I heard my sister whisper, almost trembling, "What do we do now?" I stopped at the doorway, my voice carrying across the silent room. Next time you laugh at someone, make sure they're not quietly building the future you'll have to answer to. And with that, I walked out, my kids at my side, leaving them stunned, powerless, and finally facing the reality they could never run from.